All Blacks and Ireland this weekend, folks. The deciding third test from Wellington. We've got some teams which have just been named today. We're going to go through the squads, the predictions and some stats, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how this third test is going to play out. Remember, you guys in the States can watch it on Flow, this and the other games this weekend, plus the upcoming Rugby Championship. So if you're in the States and want to watch some rugby, check out Flow, link in the description. Happy days, there's a feast of rugby on. Obviously, New Zealand and Ireland, man, the tour was kind of flipped on its head with that second test, wasn't it? I mean, 42-19 looked pretty comfortable from the All Blacks on paper, but if you looked at the kind of times of the scoring, there's a real purple patch for the Irish, and it's the only time this tour where they've really had kind of one genuinely bad 10 minutes for them. Taking that out, they've either been on top or it's been, kind of parity between the two sides. So, yeah, that 42-19 scoreline maybe flattered the All Blacks a wee bit. I mean, I don't mean to not give credit to my boys because, I mean, it takes effort to break them down and score those tries. But, yeah, as I said, flipped on its head in the second test, 23 points to 12. Doesn't seem as kind of emphatic on the scoreboard. Remember, that's like the biggest home loss to for the All Blacks in like 30 years or something. The All Blacks don't usually lose by that many, and that was the first ever win on New Zealand soil by an Irish team in rugby, obviously. So, yeah, pretty crazy stuff. So we're all set up with this deciding third test. It is on in Wellington. I'm sitting here in absolutely miserable rain here in Auckland today on Thursday. And if you saw the Māori All Blacks game, which was the same stadium this game is going to be played at, it was miserable and windy there that day. But the forecast so far is looking pretty decent for Saturday. So hopefully we get slightly better conditions for this deciding game. For the All Blacks, they've tinkered with the squad a little bit. Bauer and Codie Taylor continue on at 1 and 2. Nepo Laulala is the change at tight head. He comes in. Remember, he was named in the All Blacks squad initially, but didn't play the first couple of games. He's had a little bit of, I forget if it was his back or his neck, but he's had a niggling injury, which has been waiting to get 100%. He must be back to 100% now because he is named and he's named to start. So straight into the deep end for him. All Blacks fans will be a little bit worried because the guy's discipline sometimes lets him down. And if you're looking at the last test, that was a factor. So we'll see how he goes ahead up against the pretty strong Irish front row, which certainly looked better than they did in game one. Retallick and Whitelock's the same second row as the first test. Remember, Whitelock missed the second one with a bit of concussion. So he's back in, and that's a bit of good news for the All Blacks. A lot of All Blacks would argue Whitelock is one of the best leaders in the squad. A lot of All Blacks fans would argue that. So, yeah, having his presence, I think, will certainly be welcome. That means Scotty Barrett shifts back to 6, where he started the first test. He did all right there. I mean, obviously his carrying wasn't like a Jerome Kaino carrying in terms of getting over the advantage line, but he was busy. He made his tackles. So another guy whose discipline can let him down at times, but I don't think he conceded any penalties last week. So happy days. Scotty Barrett at 6, Sam Cane at 7, Ardie Savea at 8. Obviously, we'll want to keep him on the field a bit longer than we did last week because the guy's world class and the All Blacks certainly look a better side when he's playing. Backs wise, Aaron Smith and Beauden Barrett continue on at 9-10. With David Havili starting at 12, I thought they might have gone Richie Mo'unga, because him and David Havili play for the Crusaders together at 10 and 12. So that would kind of be a natural combo, maybe a more cohesive combo than putting Brodie there. But they're sticking with Brodie for the moment. And then David, remember, he's had his COVID issues the first couple of weeks, but he's back fit now. So he's at 12. Different player from Tupaia. Tupaia's a bit more direct. Havili a bit more of a playmaker. And he played really well in the Super Rugby final. So fingers crossed he can hit the ground running after, as I said, a few weeks off. Rieko is still there at 13. And the outside backs got a bit of a Crusaders influence with Will Jordan and Sevu Reece on the wings. Reece switches from the right to the left. Will Jordan's up from the bench, and then you got Jordie Barrett at fullback. So, yeah, like I said, it's the return of Whitelock, and it's the inclusion of the squad from Havili, who initially missed out. That are the main changes. On the bench, Dane also comes back in for Tokiaho at hooker. He's always got calf issues, eh? He's another guy who's getting on. The old boys tend to have issues with their calves. But Dane Coles is in, so certainly experienced. Ross and Tuivasa-Sheck, the prop replacements. Then Akira Ioane is on the bench. They don't have a specialist lock on the bench, I guess, because Scotty Barrett's at 6, so he covers there. And then Dalton Papalii is also on the bench. So 2 Blues guys on the bench. Big ball carrying Akira who's another one who's had a little bit of a niggling injury. He can certainly add some go forward if he gets on. Folau, Fakatava, Richie and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck are the back replacements. So Roger is going to get his debut when he comes on, assuming he comes on. If you guys are in Ireland and you've never heard of him, which is quite possible, the guy was a rugby league superstar down here. He's in his late 20s now. Played rugby union in his kind of schoolboy years. But, switched over to union with an eye to get into the Rugby World Cup squad for next year. And he's kind of been fast-tracked into the ABs. Certainly got a talented game about him. Loves an offload, naturally, with his rugby league background. But, first match at All Blacks test level. He's at home, but this is a deep-end test in terms of, the amount of pressure that's going to be on this one. And I should mention Rieko will be getting his 50th cap when he plays in this one. So, yeah, that's the All Black squad. For the Irish, way more stable. I mean, the All Black squad's not exactly wholesale changes, but stable stuff from Andy Farrell, Porter, Sheehan, and Furlong. That's the front row, and they really showed us what they could do in that last test. I thought, like, first test, I don't think it was the same platform they're used to, but they returned to the kind of usual ways in the second. Byrne and Ryan in the second row. Ty Byrne. I know, like, a couple of years ago, James Ryan was one of the most talked about locks in the world, and he's still bloody good. But, I mean, Ty Byrne was phenomenal last week, wasn't he? Not only his carries, but his tackles and, just his work in the air. He's just a really hard-working player. And, he really showed his class, why he was on the kind of Lions tour and whatnot last year with his shift. So excited for him to really show us again what he can do. Peter Amani, who gave Sam Cane a bit of a wicked burn verbally last week. That's been all the talk in the media. I couldn't hear it. I think the New Zealand commentators talked over it. Maybe it was on an Irish feed that you could, the Sky UK or whatever feed, because, I couldn't hear it. I went back to try and listen to it, but couldn't hear it. But, he's at 6, Josh van der Fleer's at 7, and Doris is at 8. And, like, they were really impressive. Like, Caleb Doris was pretty anonymous in the first test, but not in the second, man. The ankle tap, beautiful stuff. Josh van der Fleer got through, like, 20 tackles last week, so you can see why they're steady as she goes. Gibson-Park and Sexton, 9-10. Sexton was back to his best. Aki comes in for Ringrose, but he's at 12, so Henshaw shifts to 13. That's the only change to the starting lineup. Remember that head clash last week saw Ringrose leave the field early. And then you got James Lowe, Mack, Hansen, and Hugo Keenan is the same back three as last week as well. The only change on the bench is Keith Earls coming in at 23. Obviously, with Aki starting for Ringrose, then you need to bring Earls in to cover. So Carberry is still there at 22. I thought they might have gone with Frawley. I didn't think it was likely, but that kind of like, a little bit of a tingling maybe, because Frawley was pretty good against the Māori All Blacks, but not to be. Murray, Conan, these guys, I think Carberry did get minutes, but Murray and Conan didn't have to play off the bench last week against the Māori All Blacks, or on Tuesday. They managed to kind of keep them rested. Treadwell did play in that game. He was good. Beelan, Healy, and Herring are the other replacements. So, those are lineups. As I said, kind of relatively steady as she goes. A little bit of tinkering and one pressure debut for Roger Tuivasa-Sheck when he comes on. Stats-wise, interestingly, the All Blacks have not managed to score a point in the first quarter, so like the first 20 minutes of either game. I think they got like a try on the 21st minute of the first game, but the first quarter has been mostly about Ireland. They conceded 5 and then 10. So the Irish are certainly starting the games better than the All Blacks guys. And from the first to the second game, the All Blacks attack was largely blunted. So they didn't seem to have a plan B. Like, meters per carry is generally a good stat for how effective an attack is, and you're aiming for about 4 meters a carry, which generally shows good go-forward ball. That's what the All Blacks had in the first game, exactly 4 meters a carry. Second game was 2.7, which for context, across all the games that weekend, like the Japanese against the French and the Welsh up against the Springboks, like 2.7 meters per carry was the second lowest of all the teams. So the All Blacks attack was very blunt. Only Wales against South Africa had less. So, as I said, very, very quiet. Obviously, the yellow cards, the red card, those penalties conceded, those were issues. And the All Blacks across our 2 games against the Irish are the second most penalised side of all those Tier 1 sides. Only Australia's conceded more penalties. So, troubling. But we look back at that 10 minutes in the first game with a bit of optimism. Sorry about the rain, folks. It's absolutely piddling down outside. For Ireland, they obviously fixed some stuff from game 1. They reduced the errors. They had a lot of turnovers conceded in that first game. They won more turnovers in the second. They had a higher tackling percentage in the second. Their scrum looked way better in the second. So it was an overall just massive step up. I mean, Ardie Farrell didn't make wholesale changes. He didn't panic. He kept faith with the team that lost 42-19. And, they rewarded him with a really good shift. So it's going to be a fascinating one, folks. In terms of the recent results, it's kind of like a pattern where it's been an Irish win, New Zealand win, Irish, New Zealand, Irish. Like it's repeating. And by that notion, the All Blacks should win this one, right? It's our turn. So we'll see if that rings true. I don't think that's a factor. That's just coincidence. But, I mean, 16-19 Ireland, 46-14 All Blacks, 29-20 Ireland, 42-19 All Blacks, 23-12 Ireland. So we should win 40-something to, 20-something, right? According to history. Please, can we? Really, predictions-wise, the All Blacks are favoured by the bookies by 9 points, which is pretty confident. And the Rugby Forecast algorithm says 13. So despite last week's big win by the Irish boys, they still go on to this one as fairly big underdogs. Wayne Barnes is the ref. Remember, it's a morning kickoff for you guys in Ireland, 8:05, but here locally it's 7:05. It's in Wellington, Sky Stadium. So, yeah. Hopefully we get some good weather. Hopefully it's a good game, folks. Very much looking forward to it. Been waiting for these teams to come out. Still haven't seen the press conferences yet. But we'll kind of see what the two coaches have got to say, hopefully in the coming hours. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts. Do you think the Irish boys make more history by getting their first series win in New Zealand? Or do Fozzie's boys show what they are made of and try to save the man? There is some talk here in New Zealand about Fozzie potentially getting sacked if he loses. I may be a bit naive, but personally I can't see it, even if he loses. But the pressure is certainly mounting. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts. If you want Irish or All Blacks gear, Lovell Rugby certainly got some for sale. I do like ordering jerseys from those guys. Link down in the description if you want to get some rugby gear. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. How do you see this one going? And I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.